My question is, what do you do in terms of learning when you do not have equivalents in the past to learn from? If, for example, you are trying to resolve how 7 billion human beings can live on planet Earth, no matter how hard you look in the past, you won't find a good example when we have lived as humans in a very fair way, sustainable way, as over 7 billion. And some people would argue the current economic collapse that we are still recovering or trying to recover from has no precedence. Not even the 1930s compared to what we are facing as humanity if we continue our ways of doing things. And that is what gave some of the colleagues I work with the insight to begin to inquire, how else do humans learn? And this is what brought us here to share this conversation. Learning from the future as it emerges. And the term that has been coined to represent that is presencing. Simply put, when we put ourselves in the present moment, while at the same time reaching out for what is on the horizon, we have the capacity to conceive of what is emerging in the future. And having bent the beam of observation onto ourselves, then we know that we are the agents through which that future is going to be born. So how does the process of doing that work? Again, spending a little bit of time and talking to different profound change makers, individuals who in one way or the other are demonstrating they accessed a deeper level of knowing before they took action. What journey do we see them walking? It's the following. The era for lone rangers is gone. When we could rely on one hero who would appear from nowhere and do the magic and solve all our problems, the era for lone rangers is gone. Our time, we will only manage to survive and overcome some of our challenges if we learn the art of co-creation. The capacity to connect with other people, not because we agree on the questions, on the answers, but because we agree on the questions that matter. What often divides us is that we jump to the solutions and we see how different we are in terms of solutions. The big deal is to focus on the common questions we hold together. So when you have agreed as a diverse group of people, go out, become experts by learning from the real experts. And the real experts is not by the number of degrees or qualifications they have. These are men and women, young and old, who are on the front end of the issue you're talking about. When you have sensed the field, the next deal, again, is to postpone brainstorming. So what happens is that you sit with others to allow inner knowing to emerge. One of the weakest moments of our time is that we have begun to celebrate what works against us. One activity after another. You wake up in the morning, and even before your eyes fully open, you stretch for the phone and to check the messages that may have come. And when you wake up, you dash into the shower room, you get into the litany of showering, looking for clothes, getting to the bicycle or to the car, the train, and as soon as you find a seat on the train, you open the laptop and begin to do things. And as soon as you reach the office, the phone call comes, the meeting comes. And this goes on until you begin to prepare to get home at about 6 p.m. And you get on the journey back home, and you tell yourself, just before you get to sleep, can you do the preparations for the following day? And then finally you drop dead on your bed around midnight. And this goes on. And what do we discover from typical change makers? They allow these gaps when there seems to be nothing. Change makers always have moments which we, the busy ones, call idle. It is in those moments that new insights are born. So the third point is to retreat, and you allow inner knowing to emerge. What comes next is quickly jump into acting. If I had stopped to begin to think about, does it make sense to call the president? And what will my colleagues think if they discover that I tried to call the president? What about my boss coming to know my sense of judgment if he or she? So once you don't jump into action, you can only mobilize reasons why you are not going to go forward. Prototyping in this way helps you to avoid the mistakes we often do when we are piloting. Most of us, when we are piloting, what are we doing? We are simply wanting to prove the case and the justification for why we must scale up that. True prototyping is anchored on the following: fail often in order to succeed sooner. So failing is part of the deal. Fail often in order to succeed sooner. The capacity to get something and know what needs to be done in the moment and act, because it is not mere guesswork. You have summoned all your ability, all your faculties to perceive that which is about to be born, and it wants to use you as a vessel for arriving in the present moment. Why do you have so much faith in something you create? I always joke about this, because if I picked my phone and I said, hello, I am speaking, can I call you later? And then I said, oh, sorry, that was my brother in Iceland. You probably are going to believe me. What has happened is that you trust that this little thing I hold in my hand called phone has the capacity to pick my brother's voice wherever he is. It's because it has the receptors that allows it to pick things in an instant. This is the more primary instrument, which has the best receptors you can imagine. We are wired as a receptor. Once we learn to pay attention to what is going on in our system, we are the most primary and natural antenna for picking what is on the horizon and wanting to be born through us.